Okay, we're going to do a little bit of re-recording here. It's June 11th. I finished all the videos on the AppFabric setup and install a few weeks ago, but I had mentioned in Video4 that I was going to resolve the dynamic IP problem I have here, which I've done now. So what I want to do is to quickly show you how to get the source code and get it to compile the first time. I use Visual SVN to host all of the projects that I currently work on, which, to be honest, there's quite a few of them. Been making a lot of videos lately. Not all of them are up. Most of them focused at DevExpress and CSLA. Some AppFabric stuff in here. But let's go ahead and redo this video 4 and just walk you through some of it. Even if you watched the first one, this one will be helpful. I'll probably leave them both on the internet. Name them, one of them old, one of them new. But what we need to look at first is SVN clients. There's a lot of them out there, some of them free, some of them not so free. The free one, obviously, that comes to most people's mind is Tortoise SVN. Most of your commercial SVN products need Tortoise SVN anyway. Visual SVN is one of them I pay for. The server portion of it is free. The client portion of it is not, but the client portion, even if you buy it, requires you install Tortoise SVN first. So I'm going to show you where you can get that. You can get Tortoise SVN at this link, tortoisesvn.net/downloads.html, and it says 177 is the current version. Get it for 64 or 32-bit OSs. Be careful where you click, because these stupid advertisements are showing up everywhere. You end up somewhere you don't want to be. It's bad. Just make sure you get the Tortoise SVN 177. Okay, so let's go and get the source code, shall we? This is a empty directory. If we look, it's a folder I created that I want to put the AppFabric demo in. Doesn't matter where you put it on your hard drive. Let me start by saying that. Other than, make sure it's a folder that you have administrative access rights to. And it's not so much for the C# and Visual Studio end of it as it is for the SQL Server 2012, I guess what they commercially named it, Express Edition having access to the files, which I'll show you how to connect the server in a minute. But even though we are dealing with AppFabric, we're comparing it to a back-end database. So you're going to need the database, like I said, in video 1 and 2. That should already be set up. But do make sure wherever you put it, you do have administrative access to that directory. So after you've installed Tortoise SVN, the easiest way to do it is just go here and you can go to Tortoise SVN, depending on which version you have, and you can get it here. I'm going to use the SVN checkout. Okay. Now, I believe in the previous videos it had my IP address, which at the time was the best I had. Dynamic DNS had gone commercial, and I gritted my teeth and paid for it. I think it's only like $25 a year, but I still don't like it. I think it's a great product, but a little bit overpriced in my opinion. If you can find a free one you like and you have similar things you do that I do, shoot me an email, let me know. But Dynamic DNS works just fine. Okay, so the URL that you're going to need now is going to be my last name, bortel.dnsdojo.com, and it's going to be :81, and everything else is typical SVN link you see here. Now, if you follow some of my other projects, which are, like I said, CSLA and DevExpress, you'll notice everything's the same except for the portion after the SVN. And that's because I run a single Visual SVN on a Server 08 R2. So, get familiar with it. bortel.dnsdojo. The only thing I'll change is some port numbers. And some people say, well, why don't you do port forwarding, this and that, and make the URL a true URL? It's a good question, and it just doesn't work, and I can't explain why. If you do, let's say you get into Dynamic DNS and let's say I want to do bortelsvn.dnsdojo.com and then just put the name of the SVN trunk. For some reason, Tortoise or some of the other SVN clients are smart enough to detect that the repository isn't there at that link. Instead, it's been forwarded to this other :81 link, because you could go bortelsvn.dnsdojo.com, but it just doesn't work on most SVN clients. It throws an error. So just do this. I'm not going to change ports on the SVN server. 81's not used for anything else on our home network, so it'll keep. It'll be good for as long as I have the server up. And so I'm just going to go ahead and click in here and say OK. And you'll see it begin checking stuff out. Now, if you don't have a username and password, hit me up, Dean_Bortell, BORTELL at Dell.com, and I'll get you one. Otherwise, if you just want read-only, which is really what most people want, you can use guest _GUEST, not underscore, my apologies, lowercase GUEST. And the password's going to have a capital P in it, but you're going to spell out the word password and then 1. I believe there's a $sign at the end. If that doesn't work, it's just password 1. And if none of those work, send me an email and I'll reset it. But it's going to be guest, all lowercase, and then password with a capital P, 1, and I believe a $sign. So I'm going to go ahead and pause right quick while this downloads, and we'll be right back. Okay, so the download's finished. I'm going to say OK here. Now I'm going to go to Visual Studio. Well, you know what? Let me show you the directory. Just probably a good idea to look. But if you look at the directory, you'll see whatever your icons are for your SVN statuses, and you'll see now there's a directory structure here. Now I don't like to double-click this and just bring up the Visual Studio solution. I have many versions of Visual Studio, including the new one. On most of my machines, so I've already got running here Visual Studio 2010 Ultimate, and so I'm going to go in here and I'm going to open a solution, and I'm going to go to my C drive. I'm going to go to Development 2012 and AppFabric Demo, and there we go. I'll say Open. And what it doesn't show, and what I did do, is I'm running Visual Studio as an administrator. That's pretty easy to do. You just go Start, right-click on it, Run as Administrator. Okay, now if you are circling back for the first time since you watched the original series, this solution has changed significantly. The base solution is the same, but there's a couple of more projects in here, namely the library.net and the library.test. For the purposes of this video, we're not going to go over these because they're part of the CSLA implementation. I had told you that we were going to go videos beyond for some Silverlight, Windows Forms, Windows Phone, Android, and some other things. And we are going to. And this Silverlight, or I should say the CSLA Business Library and test here, is getting us down the road to being there. The video series, I've got a lot of them done. Probably lack about another 2 weeks having it completely finished. So for the purpose of this video, don't worry about these two projects. The ones that we were using are still the same, where you had your DAL, SQL, and your SQL test. But they're all going to be here, and you should be able to go, if you've configured everything right, build it, and have it build out for you. Now, if you didn't, one of the common problems that people run into the first time they build an AppFabric demo is the AppFabric, let me close this, is the AppFabric DLL can't be found. And the reason that happens is it's not in the GAC. It is, if I go here, and I've probably showed you this before, but I ran into it myself just the other day setting up a new VM. You see these application server caching client and application server caching core. Just to refresh your memory, those are actually located under, depending if you put the 32 or 64-bit, they're going to be located on your C drive under Program Files 86 or 64. I believe I may have stuck them here. Let's just make sure. AppFabric 1.1, they're going to be here, your DLLs. So your caching client, caching core. So if it won't build, and look up here again, it's under the Program Files, AppFabric 1.1 for Windows Server. You have to actually reference them here. Why they chose to do it like that, I don't know. But you can't just reference it through a .NET assembly. You actually have to do a little browsing to find it. So if you've got the default structure and default disk drive settings, then we should be good to go. Okay, so it built, said everything's good to go. No worries. Now let's look at the database. The database comes down, and there's a folder here dedicated to it. It's called Database Files, and if we look at it, there's our MDF file, and there's our log. So we'll need to attach these to our instance of SQL Express, right? Probably worth pointing out here, and you say, well, Dean, if you do that, then SQL is going to lock that, and then when you build it, it's not going to build. You're absolutely right. So what I've done is, if you look here, and I believe certainly here, I think I did it at directory level, but if I go over here to properties and I go to build action, none. No build action. And copied output directory, don't copy it. And that will keep that dreaded cannot build this because it's been used by another process, or that'll keep you from getting that. Okay, so let's go back and let's connect this database file. Rolodex.SQLExpressDB. Well, it seems a little odd for a caching demo, but this is being used in another application. I'm doing a in conjunction with some of my fellow team members, and in no small part my wife Lisa. We're doing a C# training video series from beginner to advanced on this Rolodex database that she and I put together. So let's go through here and let's attach it. You're going to need SQL Management Studio, which I have. I know there's one built in Visual Studio, but I like using SMS. So I've already connected to the default instance, which is installed on this machine. It's SQL Express 12. We'll expand it out here. I say I will. And so SQL Server 2012 Express. Now, probably before you install it, it's a good idea to look in here in your AppFabric, your testing layer. Go to your app.config and go down to your data source and look at what you had it named, Rolodex.SQLExpressDB. You need to name it the same in your database manager as it's named here. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to copy that just because I can. And I'm going to go to database. I'm going to right click and I'm going to attach to a database because it's already in our solution. And I'm going to add a file. And we know that it's in the development 2012 AppFabric demo. We know it's in the DAL SQL and the database files. And there it is. And I'm going to say OK. And there it is, and it found in the same directory the log file, so we're good to go there. Okay. If you're curious, you can certainly expand it, but I mean, we know it's there. And I'm going to say OK. Okay, it says this computer already has it installed. So let me go and see why it's not coming. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and show you. I refreshed here. I'll right click and refresh. This is why it didn't work. Is there's a recovery pending. SQL 12 I've noticed on a couple of things when you go to recover a backup, sometimes it just sits there and does nothing. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this, and then we can attach. Okay, so we're back. I just right click and delete, and we should be back in business. And we are. And you can see here now at home, one of the mistakes I made was I forgot the letter P. Make sure it's rolodex.sqlexpressdb. We can go in here and we can expand it, and we can make sure the tables came down, and they did. The only ones we're really using for this demo is country, region, and state, so we can do a little parent-child action on the CSLA objects. But now we've got our database here. Now we've got our solution downloaded. Now we're ready to actually start doing something a whole lot more interesting. Now, if you look up here, I've got a lot of this commented out. In the next video, it'll explain what we're doing here. But like I said, this code base that I had to rebuild lesson 4 from is a lot further along than the original lesson 4 code base. So this should get you up and get your development environment ready to move on to the next step. Thanks a lot.